For our St. Patrick's Day, we were ready. And I'm going to show you how I prepared this delicious cabbage dinner with, of course, all the sides. Now, the recipe for the cornbread and the corned beef brisket are in other videos, and I'll mention that toward the end. First, I start out with one bunch of kale, and I'm using also one head of cabbage. Now, you can choose whatever dark green you want to cook with your cabbage. I just wanted some of that extra flavor. I have one rope of sausage, and you can use whatever sausage you like, along with some Cajun seasoning, season all, and one stick of butter. And that is pretty much all you're going to need for this recipe. Now, in my pot, I have a little bit of some leftover turkey bacon grease that I had, and this is going to add extra flavor to that cabbage. I'm using a half a stick of the butter. The other half is going to go toward my cornbread and just bypass the pot of boiling water I have there. That was for a different dish. And I went ahead and added my sausage, and that was after I chopped it all up. And then I went ahead and got my kale together, and then my kale is going to be added, and then that is going to cook down first because kale is a little coarser green. Excuse me, it's a coarser green, so it's going to take a little bit longer to cook, and I wanted to make sure that all my greens were nice and tender. So as you can see here, I added and let it cook down, and it pretty much went to almost nothing. And I'm adding just a pinch of my Cajun seasoning, about 1 teaspoon, and then I'm also going to add about 1 teaspoon of my season all mix. Now, you can use, if you want, you don't have to add the season all mix or the seasoning salt, but this was just to add some of the flavor, because once I add my cabbage, a lot of that salt and that smoky flavor from the sausage will be absorbed. So I just went ahead and just kind of stirred that around some. And then after that cooked down for about another 5 minutes, I went ahead and I added my cabbage. My cabbage had already been cut up and washed. My kale, of course, it was washed also, and I just kind of put that all inside there, and that's going to also cook down as well. Now, with cabbage, because it also have a high water content, you know, it's going to shrink. So I went ahead and added just a pinch more, about another half to 1 teaspoon of my Cajun seasoning, and then I'm going to add also another teaspoon of my seasoned salt. Now, if you don't want, you don't have to add it to this step, but a lot of the greens, the cabbage is going to absorb a lot of that flavor and a lot of that salt because of the water content, so it really will not turn out salty. So you can see I am mixing up my cabbage really well right here, and I'm just going to kind of make sure that everything is well mixed with the seasonings that I've added, and I'm going to let this cook covered for about a good 5 to 10 minutes because I want this to cook down some. And as that is cooking down, I'm going to work on my side dish, and one of my side dishes is my cornbread. So as you can see here, I am adding my milk to this cornbread, and this is homemade cornbread. So if you like the recipe on how I make my homemade cornbread, feel free to check out the video that I did for my oxtail and beef soup, and I added a side of cornbread, and it is so good. That's also a good recipe. So I was just pouring it into my greased dish that I bake my cornbread in, and I went ahead and checked on my cabbage, and it was doing pretty good, and I just kind of gave it another quick stir. And I covered it up and checked on it a few times. I had to add a little bit more water because I noticed the water was starting to evaporate. But you could add water to your discretion. And I just kind of mixed it in, and you can see it starting to bubble. So I know that the water content was going to help my cabbage finish cooking all the way through. And it only took about good 15 minutes for my cabbage to cook through. And as you can see, it is done. It was ready to be served. And this was our finished dinner. We had our corned beef brisket that I cooked in the oven, and of course our cabbage with our sausage. Also had a little bit of our field and black eyed peas. Oh yeah, with a little bit of snap peas with them. That was so good. We have our cornbread that I did, a pretty golden brown, and of course we had to have some rice to go with this dish. So if you really like this recipe, please click like, share, and subscribe. The recipe for my corned beef brisket is also in another part of my videos. You can feel free to check it out. And now you have my cabbage. So I hope you decide to share this video. Click like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you, and God bless.